Evet, hoş geldiniz.
Well, welcome. Yesterday and today, actually, we were talking about the voyage of the content, and we were talking about and these information were given by the geniuses that are behind these contents. And today we were talking about the changes that are going on through these content changes. Actually, the previous presentation was wonderful to understand where the change is going on. From now on, first of all, I would like to welcome you all, Yonca, Sarah, and Baruch. They all are in different aspects, are actually giving the content through different areas. They are the representatives of these companies. We are going to talk about the collaboration. What has changed in our lives? I'm going to talk about our world right now. The institution that I'm bounded to through its agency, in a traditional point of view, it has a mission to actually join the consumer with advertisements. But in the previous years, actually, we changed our way of traditional behavior. So we looked for the creation of the valuable content. So we became also partners of this valuable content in this new order, so that the brands become more integrated and have an integrated communication area. So when we correlated together with a new world, the Global Entertainment, for instance, in England, is creating wonderful contents that they have created for Yahoo as well, Baileys, Bombs, and beyond. For younger families, it's actually content that is giving guideline to the families. It's so wonderful, these webisodes, that it becomes actually the home and house channel of Discovery Channel takes it and makes it a 30 minutes of a television show. And actually, this becomes a success on the TV. On the other hand, the change on the technology. Actually, this is really simpling our lives, and it's becoming more cheaper for us. So generally, with a Canon 5D, can cost for 5,000 euros at the moment. That is the reason why we can understand how cheap we can receive these contents. And that's the reason why all the contents on digital area is growing and many integrations occur. Again, in news, Turner gave $174 million and has a consumer-generated sports content and bought this media and puts it into his portfolio, which is very important. And we're talking about change, and on the other hand, of course, there are people from television as well. This is where we are today, but this is a reality. Of course, the television is still effective on us, because in Cannes, the CEO of Twitter has said that the content in Twitter, 50% of the contents of Twitter is about television programs. I suppose it is higher in Turkey. That means that the success of the content is rising the more they are widespread throughout the community. And, the Turkish clip numbers are at about 1 billion in numbers, so that we can see how effective these numbers are. So, what are the new business models for this? Whatever the content may be, and these all changes, there's only one change that doesn't change us. In the heart of the content, there must be actually a differentiated, wonderful idea as a basis. So in order to sustain, in order to distribute it, we need to have an investment. That means that we need to have an economical value in which the content investment can get actual share for the advertisement investment. As a classical buy and purchase, and the different kinds of economical situations occur. So we are going to deepen into that matter. This is actually the topic of our presentation. I will start with Yonca, first of all. Yonca, yes, of course, YouTube is a phenomenon throughout the whole world. There are consumer-generated numbers with enormous amounts of numbers, and so a new life starts in this matter. This partnership program, with the YouTube partnership program, actually, you are making an initiation for the good quality content. It's not only about 3 or 5 minutes of homemade videos, but there will be also contents that will be good in the quality, and you're going to share it with your audience. Is there a difference right now in your business model within this value chain? In this new world, when you take a look to the matter as a media owner, how do you look to this new collaboration? I'm going to talk about YouTube, first of all, but the internet that YouTube is involved in is in such a verge of change that, first of all, I need to start there, then I can answer your question. Now, 2 billion people are connected to the internet. It looks like as if it is an incredible number, but we are 7 billion people in total in the world, so that means that we need to actually get through this road in a more accelerated way. So these 7 billion people in the future will be connected together. If we think about this, even though I'm in the internet and every day we will be going through a future that I can even not imagine. People are not going to connect to each other. As you know, there is an Internet of Things concept that has been talked in Europe and the United States, that the furnitures are also, for instance, things are also connected to the internet. Could be a car, could be glasses, for instance, are being operated at the moment. Again, there are plenty of things going on with housing in which the things are connected to the internet. Another thing is like Ray Kurzweil, people like Ray Kurzweil, they become actually connected to the machines and become immortal. This is quite extreme, isn't it? So this is actually now the certain changes that are ongoing at the moment. When we talk about the media and talk about today, what I see is that the whole media, it has already been said for 2 days in this conference, but I need to emphasize this once again. In the coming few years, the whole media will be digitalized, not analog. All the advertisements, etc. To the content. We were watching one channel, then 3 channels, and now we have cable TV, and with privatization there are thousands of channels. But with the environment of YouTube, this will be converted to 10,000s of channels. So the narrow band will be more privatized and more custom-made. So the content will be custom-made. If we talk about YouTube, it's been recently launched in Turkey. I would like to give some statistics about YouTube. One was been very much discussed about, and it's per minute. There is 72 hours of content that's been uploaded throughout the world. And there's another thing about partners. For instance, there are there are more than 1,000 partners that are earning more than millions of dollars. These are not all big companies. They are individuals, those we do not know at all. Some of them were given as examples yesterday. For instance, there are actually millionaires who are only 14 years old. So we see here a boom here and as partners in YouTube. And as for advertisement, in the United States, those who are giving advertisement to YouTube, the number of them is actually 200 folds more than those who give advertisement to the television, and both of them are rising. The partners are doubling every year, and the advertisers are doubling every year as budgets. It doesn't mean that the YouTube and television cannot be together. Just in the contrary, I believe that they are very much integrated together. But what I try to say here is in the living room, there is a competition so that they can take so we can take attention of the public. Amazon, Apple can be also included in this. PlayStation, or on the other hand, it is called. This is a trend right now. Who is going to win if you look at that living room? Of course, first of all, the audience is going to win because everybody is competing and racing to make better things for their audiences so that people can easily find things. And the advertisements will be correlated advertisements for the audiences. So in the end of the day, the audience is going to win. And what I would like to say today here, as you have told as well, the YouTube Partnering Program. The YouTube Partner Program, for instance, with $100,000 of a budget in the United States, to different partners or to the companies, Madonna, Jay-Z is also included, or ordinary people, for instance, were presented an investment. But we are not a content company. This is just like the BBC, with BBC Worldwide, would you have a cooperation, for instance, we directly will have, with different creators, a partnership. It's, I think, integrated with each other. I want to emphasize this because in Turkey, in such a style as we do partnership in television companies, there's a great opportunity going on. It's especially YouTube has been Turkish now as a language, and the numbers are very much in Turkey, and there's a great opportunity going on here. So it's most probably good to actually take an action about this. Can we take this message? Yes. Yonca, I would like to ask another question to you. With LG, you have a big project going on. It has been also been seen in Sundance, which is called Life in a Day. Because I believe it's a wonderful example for the corporations. There are those who are actually giving advertisements. There's a platform like you are. But they're together with areas which there's too much exploited. It became a mega project. And as for consumer-generated content, you have wonderfully integrated it to this project. This lovely day, I do not know if you ever have heard about this. I suppose there might be one, supposedly that, because there has been a 20 million of audiences that has watched it. Life in a Day is an idea project. A young person with at about 22 years old, I never forget it. Everybody is giving ideas according to certain criteria. We say yes or no. And there was one guy, he wanted to shoot a movie, and I'm going to shoot this movie with a very important regisseur. I'm going to choose one day, and he chose the July the 24th. And from that day, I'm going to announce to the whole world what he has had in their daily lives. And this on YouTube, and I want everybody to actually upload a video of what they have done throughout a day. And I'm going to make a film it with a regisseur, and I'm going to present it to the Sundance festival. And that realized Kevin McDowell, together with Kevin McDowell, they have made such a film. There's only one documentary on how this movie has been shot, for instance. And after 10,000 hours of videos, there's one part for a father and a son. The son is, first of all, is actually shaving himself for the first time in his life. And it's not probably very enormous things going on there, but there are plenty of things where you feel very emotional. And we have made a partnership together with LG. And YouTube and the advertiser. It's a new model going on that. It's wonderful for us and for them. I suppose 20 million watches have been made, and on Sundance Festival they have earned also an award. How much money did the guy get? After he was promoted, he was young. Supposedly there was a 20% of a rise in his salary. His dreams became true. And we cannot measure it with money at all. Okay, thank you very much, Yonca. Now let's continue with Sarah. Sarah is the director of international distribution of Rural Media Group. It's an American-based company, and as for lifestyle, they have a great mission. They are generally actually talking about agriculture. But out of this lifestyle, sports is also included. Rodeo, music, and entertainment is also included in this lifestyle design. That it has been watched in 21 million households in the United States, and it's a very long time span, a period for this channel, and it's number one in the ratings. So what's important for us here? A lifestyle group is creating content, and how much we know that how much valuable it is for an advertiser for such a lifestyle basis. That means that there are advertisers that are following these audiences. How do you actually correlate? What kind of business models do you do fundamentally? That's my first question.
I had to make some notes here so I could understand the translation. Rural Media Group's been around about 12 years, and we do broadcast in about 61 million homes in the United States. It is an independent channel in the United States. You have a lot of independent cable networks, and we're also cable and satellite. We have about 3 different brands that we broadcast, which would be FamilyNet, RFD TV, and Rural TV. And across those brands, we represent 4 different genres, which will be a little bit distinct to the audience here. We broadcast primarily agricultural and farming content, equestrian content, which it's not Grand Prix or dressage. It's more for people who are very much interested in the lifestyle of horses. So it can be anything from training to rodeo and Western sports, which are growing in popularity, as well as endurance sports, too, for horseback riding. And then we also represent rural lifestyle content, which is cooking shows. It encompasses a pretty broad range when you talk about rural lifestyle. One of our most popular programs that gets distributed is, believe it or not, a quilting show that teaches you how to quilt. And then the other genre is probably our most important one is country music and entertainment. And that's traditional country music. It's a little bit distinct from the pop and modern stuff that you see on the Viacom networks like Country Music Channel and Country Music Television. So how do we integrate our advertising into that? Well, we offer a lot of choices, number one. So anywhere that there's a spot to be sold on that channel, any of the channel brands, it gets sold. And depending upon the demographic and the market that we're looking at, sort of tells us where we're going to target that advertising. So if it's a family product, we'll put it more towards FamilyNet and one of the companies that's going to integrate that kind of product and the orientation of the audience. If it's a rural product, it will go, whether it's a new product or an existing one, will go to the other 2 channels. We also have a lot of sponsorship. So a lot of our programmers are independents. We represent about 150 different independent programmers who provide us with content. They themselves are charged with finding some of their own sponsorship for the programs. So they will go out and solicit, say if you've got a 30-minute series, you've got 4 minutes of advertising that you can sell within that. We give them the advertising space. They sell that themselves. We don't actually sell it.
Oh, okay.
They can go out and say, they can say, listen, I've got a show. It's going to cost me $50,000 per episode. How much can you give me? I can give you back this added value. We as a channel then provide them with the added value of giving them 61 million homes that they can look at, the platforms that they can sell across, and then we also do international distribution. So we work with affiliates all in Vietnam, in Croatia, and then we help develop new channels too. This is a very new market for educational content, for entertainment, and we help incubate and develop channels globally so that there is a whole new market for this type of programming out there, which creates a whole new advertising market. And then what we do, too, with Rural Media Group owning this channel and having small stakes and equity shares is that we act as sort of the umbrella to the developing networks, and we provide them with a platform to sell back to us where we can redistribute and relicense their content so that they've got a consistent revenue stream, and they can also go back to their advertisers and say, look at how many eyeballs are actually viewing this content, and look at the new market that I can create for you. So if we've got an American product that says, all right, I've been advertising on your channel for the last couple of years, now I want to break into a new market in Vietnam, or I want to break out into a new market in France. We just helped launch a channel there. We can say, all right, you've been a really good advertiser with us. Let's now begin to transition your products over to the new channel. And not only transitioning the products, but also the management style, the people on the ground who will actually then take the advertising and who will help remarket it in those localized areas. And we do the same thing with our programming content, too. When we help to launch a new channel, we'll take about a 20% share of American content, but what we'll do is we'll work with the channel aggregator on the ground, and they will come in with, we'll take about 80% to start of American content, and then we'll get that translated. We'll work with the partner on the ground. They'll come in with 20% local, and over a series of months and years, that content level changes as they develop more agricultural content and farming content, or whatever the mix happens to be. It will start to be a balance. You'll have sort of 50-50, and eventually it becomes an 80-20%, where you've got enough localized content there that will allow them to have an independent channel, which then hopefully gets bought up by somebody else at some stage.
Çok teşekkürler.
Thank you very much. Of course, from this perspective.
So how this content is enriched was expressed by you and the balances. But this change that is discussed here and what the technology brings and the subsequent changes of the young generation and the role they play in our lives, we listen to the fact that they are the decision makers. So the change in their behavior, how did that affect your content and what will it require?
We're the #1 channel in the States for time spent viewing, and we're also #1 with the 50-plus demographic. And I like to think that the two are not that far apart from one another. My father-in-law is a 83-year-old farmer in the state of Illinois, which is a very rural part of America. And his version of time spent viewing is he turns on the TV and he goes, for 3 hours. So that's a really great demographic for us for time spent viewing. But how do we now take an 83-year-old gentleman and begin to translate that into a younger generation? It's a little bit difficult when you're talking about the adoption of new technology, but what we do with the channel is we provide a very good market for people, talk about smart TVs or ways that you can introduce a new way of converting what is a very strong brand-centric demographic. If you're in the 50-plus crowd, you tend, especially in the United States, you tend to just latch onto a brand. When you know it works, nothing gets in your way. If you've always bought Panasonic TVs, there's not much that's going to switch you away from that, unless you start to hear all these rumors and you start to get some penetration from other media outlets saying, well, maybe I ought to try this other type of content or this other TV. So we open up a new market for them in that sense. We provide a very good market for I have to go back and look at my question real quick here.
The question was about how are you planning to integrate more youth into your communication and interaction?
Again, we sort of give them a new market where they can, going back, the technology providers can actually come to us and say, we'd like to sort of penetrate into the 50-plus demographic or a farming crowd that doesn't, in rural America, who doesn't necessarily have access to new technologies and new abilities and ways to use things. Also, when we're working with our affiliates, just to kind of switch this a little bit, for new independent channels that are coming up, they don't necessarily know how to distribute their content well or how to receive it. So what we do is we try to be one step ahead in terms of FTP deliveries, in terms of utilizing sort of the best resources that are available and helping them to build up the infrastructure for it too. Oftentimes in rural environments you don't have a very good infrastructure for the delivery of content and for the reception of it. Looking at Turkey, you don't really have a big cable market here. It's primarily satellite. So you have to sort of work within the confines of what you're capable of doing and teaching others at the same time how to actually get access to the markets. That probably doesn't sufficiently answer this question very well, but this is sort of a as we've been trying to grapple with social media changes, the ability to actually bring that to people who have never had access to it before in the past. And we're talking here about an audience who's kind of grown up and had access to it all along, whereas our audience is, if you're dealing with people in very rural areas, they may be now just sort of gravitating towards this, and you have to go back and reteach everything to them and get them interested in this, to say that this is the way the world is really going to be working, and it's time to get with it. And you know, letting people know that is a distinctly difficult challenge.
Çok teşekkür ederiz Sarah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sarah. And indeed, you know, when we... it's a different perspective, switching from YouTube to rural media. And now let's take a look at the CNN perspective, Barış. Now, CNN is actually... is different from these models, and it's interdependent with its infrastructure, production facilities, distribution facilities. It emerges as an important brand across the world. And when we look at the change worldwide, particularly in terms of journalism, and when you combine it with CNN's strong structure, we should... we expect it from strong structures like you. And Yonca was talking about generations. More or less, we are the same generation. And when we met, CNN it was in 1987 it was founded. And during the Gulf crisis, it was in 1991, the entire world learned about the war live. It was thanks to CNN. And in Turkey, we learned about simultaneous translation with CNN. And I'm thinking of how effective CNN is worldwide. And now, years later, there's this revolution, this transformation with the Arab Spring. And now, the leading role is the social media, Twitter and Facebook. It is through these media, it is through the leadership of these media, or rather the atmosphere created by these media. And thanks to them, this revolution becomes more widespread across the masses. And along with the digital process, how does CNN look at all these changes? Now, first, let me tell you this. The 1991 Gulf crisis and CNN's, you were talking about simultaneous. We learned about what sortie was, what attack was. That is to launch a missile. Because they kept saying sortie, that was an attack. And I remember Patriot missiles, for instance. We learned those words. They entered into our vocabulary. And now, when you talk about CNN Turk, we no longer see it as a TV channel, but we have to position it as a journalism channel, because the viewer is so much scattered. Because when we look at the viewers, because we have many people watching CNN, so we have to be all over the place. And
yani hem her yerde olacağız, ama hem de onları...
We will be everywhere, and we are going to convert them to TV. We have to be omniscient, but then we have to convert them to where we are. And as CNN, by the way, we made a product placement both in Google. Did you see them, our product placement efforts? This is not considered an advertisement, right? Because we're not... Okay, this doesn't count. So, therefore, particularly in social media, in terms of internet, we are trying to be present wherever we need to be. Yonca mentioned the figures like 2 billion people, 2/3, etc. But there's a significant demand. And when you look at it from the Turkish window, Turkish perspective, okay, we all want to use our times. But we also want to say, I am here. Pay attention to me. And the place where we can express it is through the social media. But on the other hand, there is this problem with the social media. When you look at it, the content generated in social media, 75% is generated by a 5%. So it's a very small section that generates that content. It's 5%. And there is a large segment that doesn't generate, but they consume it. There is this demand. And there's this one segment that neither produces nor consumes. I don't know why they are there. You don't see them in Facebook. You don't see them in Twitter. There are certain researches, and they say, for instance, they say Obama's X many followers are fake. Actually, they are not fake. They are passive. They neither share nor read. They don't do anything. So content is very valuable, right? But for 2 days now, we have been talking about how content is the king. But branded content it's the king of the king, actually. Because yesterday we experienced it. Okay, let alone yesterday aside. But we experienced it many times. There is this news waves, gossips waves. You know, when you go to Twitter, someone is dead. They make up a fake death, but you don't know if it's true, if it's false. You cannot know. So there is that viewer, that audience, and the followers. They need a point to refer to verify it. And then there is this crowdsourced news, this new concept. So the news generated by masses meet wide platforms. So do you have to take measures? No, but we have to be cautious about it. Because on the TV side, now, I don't have the luxury of doing it real time. I don't know who will connect or who will do what and when. I cannot know it. But that requires an entirely different technology. If you are live, you need to delay and everything. But we tried this 6 years ago. We said, dear viewer or dear man on the street, send us content, send us news so we can use them. But I'm sorry. This is something that CNN does worldwide, right? You're lending an ear to the local journalists, right? Yeah, but at the end of the day, the point where we want to reach is to have registered users. When you take a look, you don't know who is who. There is this avatar, there is this icon or an email address, but you can't know who is who. But if we can convert them into registered users, which we are working on this is one of our missions in cnnturk.com. If we can convert them into registered users, if we have checked their references, checked their backgrounds, then we can use them with that purpose. Then we can have many commentators, many correspondents. But right now in Turkey, we have to keep our distance to them. Or once we filter them, once we sort them, actually what matters for us to be able to check their reference, because you're signing your name under it. So, and you don't know if it's correct or not. So that is important. Yeah. I interrupted you a lot, right? Yeah, it's better. It's better this way. But you do have the capacity to be a TV programmer. You know, you can present a program in TV. Okay. We will edit this maybe when we give this on TV. Now, the advertiser. Okay. Content is king, and branded content is king of the king, you said. But when you look at it this way, what do you do as CNN Turk? Would there be an example you would like to share with us? Yes, I will, but before that, two more things. Like we said, we want to be everywhere where we want to be, in all the platforms available to us. But as of this morning, CNN Turk has 1 million 245,000 applications have been downloaded from us. But okay, we are talking about iPhone and iTablet, but then there's the Android market, tablet market, Windows 8 market, BlackBerry market, and we are present in all of these. And our applications, okay, I have to add this. CNN Turk's iPhone application was launched before CNN was, before CNN. So CNN Turk and CNN. So we were the earlier ones to launch an iPad applications as CNN Turk. And then CNN International followed us. So what do? We have a software team, an in-house one. But you have to be on top of technology. You have to be following it up, and you have to be current. Applications, just Vestel and Samsung, in the smart TVs, we were embedded in Vestel and Samsung in the year 2011. Then in the year 2012, it was with Sony and Philips, and with Loewe and Sharp, we are going to do it in 2013. And in terms of social media, CNN Turk family has about 5 million followers. Right? Is that correct? And 1 million comes from Junaid, our MC. So CNN Turk brand has very valuable brands underneath its umbrella, and they have their own individual followers. So this is a CNN Turk family, that these are the people that we enjoy as fans. And one final point, the most important thing in these applications, giving everything from everywhere is not the right thing. It has to be tailor-made. What you can give through Twitter is restricted. But if you're sending a video, it shouldn't be 1 hour. It should be a 2-minute highlight. And it has to, Twitter needs to go to web, that needs to go to TV. So there has to be a loop. We got 11% of Turkey traffic, 6 million, 7 million from Twitter and the Facebook, but and the videos. But then there is the advertising aspect. So now we put digital aside. So that perspective was very important with us, but we're going to link it with the collaboration side, so the advertising aspect is also very important. In Turkey as well as in the world, spot commercials, you can go only up to a certain point, and it's the laws that with the powers that the law gave to us. It's like I'm marrying someone, but okay, I'm trying to be, because the Rütük censorship members are among us, so I have to be careful when I'm talking. Within the boundaries of the law, confines of the law, we had a project with Samsung, and I said, let's say, let us appear technological, let us appear proper on the screen, so let's buy certain equipment. Then we talked to Samsung, and their technology appealed to us, attracted us. So we said, as CNN Turk selected Samsung as its technology partner. So we had the product placement, we chose the faces, and we replaced everything. And that was one of the most successful projects for us for last year. And absolutely, this is what we will be seeing in the future, right? All three guests looked at it from different perspectives, but these collaborations are a must. They are obligatory in our lives. Otherwise, the value chain cannot be converted into assets from a financial perspective. Otherwise, you wouldn't require eclectic and ad hoc collaborations. This is the kind of era that we are going into. I am grateful to all of you. The timing is wonderful. And any final notes that any one of you want to add? Otherwise, I would like to close the session.
I'd just like to add sort of one thing about the in the previous presentation we were talking about the millennial generation, and I talked about how one of our demographics is the 50-plus crowd. One of the reasons why we hire a lot of millennials for our channel is that there's a really strong connection between this particular millennial generation and, say, the 70 to 80-year-old crowd. I'm 33 years old. I relate to my grandmother more than I relate to my mother or some of the younger generations. And it's the same sort of branding aspects, the same sort of reflection on one's personality and traits and thoughts are very similar in this generation to previous generations. So if you can kind of learn from that one and take it into what you're now advertising into the millennial generation in social media, my grandmother is much more interested in social media than my mother would be. So there is a very interesting crossover in this, and if you can kind of tap into that intellect, you have a very good insight into what this generation's like, and not what the next generation will be like, but the one after that. So instead of looking 10, 15 years down the road, look 20, 25 years down the road, and you've got a whole new marketing brand that sort of refreshes and recycles itself each time, and what was old is new again, and you sort of can see a renewal in what is entertainment and what is interesting to them.
Thank you very much. Son bir şey de o zaman ben söyleyeyim.
Then let me add one final thing. Indeed, along with the things we like, actually, the content that we like receives less time from us. So Yonca said, who will win? It is the audience that will win. Okay, we have less time, but more alternatives. So the more we... if we can expand this content to the social media or to other outlets, then it will be as successful. Thank you very much. This was a very fruitful seminar with you sharing your perspectives. Thanks a lot.